Greetings, season's greetings might I add. I am Jack Frost, formerly Rory Bentley. I'm here to give you the lowdown on what's been a great year for rock, heavy metal, punk, hardcore and all that kind of stuff that you love. So I hope you've had a lovely Christmas. Other less popular holidays are available as well. I'm going to give you the rundown on my top 20 albums of the year. Doesn't matter if you ask for it, you're getting it anyway. So hopefully I can shed some light on some stuff that you might not have checked out, or maybe just reaffirm your opinion that the thing that you loved is loved by others, and snowmen as well. You'll notice the phallic nose on my hood signifies that I'm hard and ready to go and tell you about what I've been digging this year. So 2017 has been an absolutely fantastic year, following on from a great 2016. Sometimes I think, is that because I'm just more aware of stuff now, I'm making more of an effort to look for it and it's been there along, or because there's been a bigger level of quality in rock and metal? I think it's the latter. Certainly bigger publications like Kerrang, like Metal Hammer, and even like Rolling Stone are actually covering our scene a lot more than they have done in recent years, and brilliant bands that some of which I'm going to mention very soon are getting much more exposure to the mainstream. So this is part one, so we're going to do 20 to 11. I'm going to try and do it a bit faster than last year because it was a little bit laborious and there's only so much you want to listen to somebody talking a bunch of bullshit. So at number 20, starting the list, is a really new release, one that I've not really had that much time to spend with, but pretty much is kind of getting into this position on reputation as well as quality, although no doubt the quality will be unveiled, and that is Glassjaw with Material Control. Bit of a surprise released album. We've only waited like, what, 15 years for a new Glassjaw album, and the real fear was, particularly if you've heard the Colouring Book EP, is that they'd lost that sort of edge. You know, they were still producing really experimental, really challenging stuff, but it was just much more sort of cool, textured, indie sort of stuff. And the rage that you had on everything you wanted to know about Silence and stuff, we thought, well, maybe that Glassjaw's over now. Maybe with the experiments of Head Automatic and stuff like that, we wouldn't be getting hard, heavy Glassjaw. And I'm very pleased to say I'm completely wrong. And we've got a really kind of visceral, heavy, just bludgeoning side of Glassjaw come back into the fore. Obviously, there's just so many weird guitar histrionics from Beck, who's not Beck the multi-instrumentalist loser baby, Beck the guitar player from Glassjaw. He's literally a one-man band in himself, and some really just challenging, weird things going on with guitar effects, his chord choices, but at the same time some really ignorant, stomping, nasty hardcore riffs. Daryl Palumbo's on fire, his vocals have never sounded better, and there's just so much to unpack here on this tiny little 36-minute album that I'm still really sifting through it, and perhaps given more time this would be much higher up in my list. But you know, this is good enough in and of itself to edge out stuff like Grave Pleasures and Unleash the Archers and a few other albums that I'm really enjoying, and I'm confident to say this is something I'm going to be going back to, and which would be a lot higher in the list. Okay, so number 19 is one that I reviewed at the very start of the year. That is AFI with the Blood album. So really great to see AFI back to being a full-on rock band. This is the best album for years and years, I think. So many hooks, so many beautiful choruses, lush arrangements, fantastic production. But you know, they've still got songs like White Offerings, which just really get the blood pumping and just remind you of that sort of Sing the Sorrow and Art of Drowning era AFI. So Blood album, really great return to form from one of my favourite bands. Great to hear. At number 18, we're going to go to the Isle of Great Britain, or just Britain. The rest of the world seems to hate us now. But yeah, that's to the north. We're going to Sheffield for While She Sleeps with their album You Are We. While She Sleeps are a metalcore band, if I'm going to put it really loosely, but that doesn't really quite sum up what they do. But what they've actually produced here is just the most accomplished work. Some would argue the heavier albums like Brainwashed and the North Stand, the one previously. This is the 6th. There you go. The previous two albums, you know, the visceral heaviness was something that some might feel doesn't pop up enough on this album, but I think this is probably their most accomplished work. They've actually melded massive choruses, and they've done really well in terms of their festival performances and their touring numbers and things like that. This is an album just chock full of amazing riffs, as good as any band in the world. Just brutal, bludgeoning riffs, really creative leads, fantastic dual vocals, and just really anthemic moments. The serious classic riff and chorus quote on here is off the charts, and it just really tells you what a great year it's been. That this is number 18 in my list, but you know, it could essentially be much higher. At number 17, staying in the UK, we have Employed to Serve with The Warmth of a Dying Sun. Employed to Serve, their sort of first release, I was pretty into, but it was not quite the finished article. You know, it was visceral, nasty, brutal, and a real kick to the face. Really refreshing to hear just jagged, nasty hardcore coming from the UK. But we knew they were capable of more. And on this album, they have absolutely leapt into the stratosphere. It's night and day between these two albums. And Warmth of a Dying Sun still retains massive, visceral riffs, still tears you apart. There's a turn of pace on everything. Every single little guitar line is just chocked full of these little flourishes and bits that you just notice more and more as you go along. It's absolutely brutal all the way through, but at the same time it's expansive, and you know, there's a post-rock feel to it without really being dull and boring and dragging on too long. But it's ambitious, expansive, brutal, and takes you into another world. And the fact that, you know, they've been voted Kerrang's album of the year is just shows you how well this scene's doing, and really the potential that these bands have got. You know, the UK is really kind of roaring into action, and we can't wait to see what's next for this band. At number, where are we on? 16, The Bronx with The Bronx 5. You could argue that some of the albums I've just mentioned previously are, you know, more artistically ambitious. They try and do more and things like that. But I just fucking love The Bronx. This is just another great Bronx album. A real step up from the last Bronx album, which was, you know, good, but it wasn't the best Bronx album. This is just basically everything you want from the Bronx. Just pure, scuzzy, rock and roll punk, massive hooks, little classic rock influence creeping in here and there, but never losing the intensity, always retaining that kind of just gravelly punk rock feeling. And I just absolutely love the Bronx. There's very little that I can say to you that's you couldn't really hear better if you just stick it on. But you know, the Bronx are just one of the most consistent rock bands in the world. For my money, one of the all-time great punk bands. And just to hear them just churning out yet another fucking fantastic 10 out of 10 Bronx album, well, that warms my heart. But yeah, so if you're going to check out a song, Sore Throat, that'd be a good place to start. Perfect melding of gravelly, nasty gutter punk with these big classic rock hooks. So yeah, the Bronx, beautiful band, beautiful album, just disgusting, heavy, headbanging, arm-swinging, mosh-worthy punk rock. Yay! Going back to England again, at number 15 is Creeper with Eternity in My Arms, or Eternity in Your Arms, or Her Arms. Can't remember the exact title, but yeah, Creeper are the band. So this is a band that have built up a real head of steam, steadily releasing quality EPs that got better and better and better. And we thought, okay, well, the last EP, The Stranger, was something that was very much hyped, something I was very into as well. We thought, could they pull it off in album form on a debut album? And the answer is yes. And so much more, and so much more. This is a stunning debut album. This band have no right to make an album as accomplished, as perfectly thematically structured, as perfectly sequenced, as anthemic, as varied and ambitious as this, and just pull it off with aplomb. This is a band that you're going to see a lot more of, and it's testament to them that I don't usually like this sort of kind of goth punk music, apart from AFI obviously, but I don't like this sort of emo-y goth punk music, but they have brought a theatricality to it, an accomplishment to it that has drawn me in. And it's an album I've played again and again and again, with massive anthems like Misery, like Choose to Live, songs that just are going to be stuck in my head and sung in festival fields all around the world for years to come. Creeper are the new hope for mainstream rock music, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of them whether you like it or not. At number 13 we have Elder with Reflections of a Floating World. This is an album that really captivated me. Kind of doom, kind of prog, kind of stoner. Some wonderful guitar heroics throughout.
I would suggest checking out the first track, Sanctuary, if you want to weigh into it. But these songs are long. These songs are expansive. It almost feels like you're in on a jam session with these guys, but it never feels indulgent. It takes you on a journey. Everything has purpose. Everything has structure, and it's one that really, providing I can devote the time to it, I've been coming back to it again and again and again. It might not be for everybody, but I think anybody listening to it, even if you're not a fan of this sort of thing, can agree it's a really accomplished version of progressive guitar music, and I absolutely love it. At number 13, another real comeback is Satyricon with Deep Calleth Upon Deep. A lot of people gave up on Satyricon after two really lukewarm received albums, and they're never going to be the pure sort of throttling black metal band previously, and nor should they be, because I think this incarnation is much better. This is a fantastic just encapsulation of their experimentation over the last few years, but everything, the difference is, just works on this album. It really just all comes together. The title track, and particularly To Your Brethren in the Dark, has this menacing dark groove to it. The blast beats are back in places. There's a more progressive nature to the songs. They go to different areas, and that distinctive satyr guitar tone is there throughout. So, real great comeback. At number 12, Jamie Lenman with Devolver. So Jamie Lenman, a UK legend in the underground in a lot of ways, was in the previous band Reuben, who released 3 of the best British rock albums of the last decade. Sadly, it never worked for them, but this is his sort of crazy mind just put into a pop format, sort of like electro, sort of indie rock, sort of metal. It's just so many different blends of genres, but all spat out in his distinctive voice. His sardonic wit is present throughout the lyrics, and it's a real, just heartwarming thing to see him finally getting some traction as well. So Jamie Lenman, Devolver, that's one I really, really would recommend you check out. And number 11, again, a band that do a style of music that I'm not really that into. I'm not into the nostalgic, sort of wistful Americana gaslight anthem sort of pop punk, but the Menzingers with their album After the Party really has just taken over my world. This is a fantastic record, and it's one of those albums and they're one of those bands that it is actually disgusting that they are not massive, that are not playing arenas at the moment. It is a crime that they're still playing, small theatres, when songs on here like Midwestern States, like Thick as Thieves, like Telling Lies, like the title track, they are massive, anthemic, emotional, heartfelt songs by a band on an absolute tear. They're never too schmaltzy, they're never too wistful, they've still got a hard edge, but the songwriting here is absolutely astonishing, and as good as any mainstream rock album you will hear all year. So if you're going to check out, on the more American side of things, you think that doesn't really sound like my kind of thing, don't really like Bruce Springsteen, I'd say check it out anyway. Give it a chance, because the Menzingers are one of the few bands actually that on this list that I actually can listen to with my girlfriend without just recoils of disgust and getting told to turn it off. So, and she hates rock music pretty much. So yeah, that's for a recommendation. But yeah, join me in part 2 for numbers 10 to 1. Stick around.